Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Monday, July 21st. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Texas game in 40 days, the game against Michigan in 131 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at gratefulgriddleoh.com. Guess we can add another number to that countdown now. I don't have to do it much math on this one at all. Big Ten Media Days starts in one day. Starts on Tuesday out in Las Vegas. I will be out there. Kevin Noon will be out there. Tony Gerdeman will be out there covering all 3 days for you. Should be a ton to talk about. And today we're going to be talking about what we're talking about out there. Tony Gerdeman joins me now. Tony, this is going to be a little bit of a different media days. Normally we're at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indy, and it's a nice, easy drive over. And, we sort of know what to expect, and we know where the hotel is, and it's all kind of easy and all kind of routine. This year, you know how the West Coast teams complain of all the travel they have to do? Tony, we have to fly all the way across the country to cover an event we used to be able to drive to. I'm not sure I care for the new bigger Big Ten.
It's either a 3-hour drive or a 4-hour flight. So if you think about it that way, Tom. But yeah, of late, that's the only time we get to go to Indianapolis. So they're taking that away from us.
I can hear the audience right now saying too soon. So normally that's me that they're saying it to. So it's nice of you to take that bullet for the rest of us. This is a year where there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and there's always individual teams, and Ohio State's replacing its starting quarterback and all those players it lost, and Michigan trying to bounce back from certainly a step back year, and started the Bryce Underwood era, and Oregon, how are they going to bounce back from the 34-0 first half issue that they had at the Rose Bowl? Penn State, are they going to be able to, this year that they get over the hump? There's so many different things. But there's also just a lot of interesting big picture stuff that I think we're going to be talking about this week. So I'll let you go first. What is one thing you are really maybe most interested in talking to people about, whether they're, folks who are affiliated with the Buckeyes or someone else in the league?
And sometimes we just get access to random people in college football. And I'm hoping there's some NIL Go people there, or some people from the clearinghouse, because I'd like to just get some direction on what can you do with recruits? What can you do with high school players? How much can you actually pay them? Or do you just have like memorandums of understanding where, and then I think one of the questions I would like to ask Tony Petiti is, how do you feel about promises made to recruits, or perhaps money being given to recruits, where it's, if this is allowed, then we'll give you this much. If this isn't allowed, we're going to give you this much. And just his overall thoughts on the strangeness of agents talking about recruits signing deals with particular schools. And, but it's also more of a conversation that I'd like to have with them. But really, it's difficult to get conversations with the commissioners. You might get one question and no follow-up, so you don't really get what you want. But I think the NIL aspect of things is going to be a pretty big talking point all over the place.
Yeah, and I would also add to that list of people to talk to, I would be fascinated to talk to head coaches about, what's your approach to NIL been? Or, what are you doing in terms of your collective? Do you still have a collective? Did you get rid of your collective? Or are you sort of approaching it as, we'll see what comes out, and we're going to be very cautious about it? And this is one of these things where I'm fascinated to ask the question. I don't know how many people are going to be willing to answer, but it's interesting to have all 18 coaches in the same place and be able to get potentially an answer from some of them, because I think it's safe to say that USC is approaching things a little differently than Ohio State is, for example. And I don't know how much Rutgers is going to have to say about NIL aggressiveness and all that, but that's certainly something that I think you're going to be able to talk to some coaches and get some interesting answers on that. And a sort of related piece to that, and in terms of, will coaches actually be able to talk about it or be willing to talk about it? I don't know. The college football playoff format, it feels like the party line from the Big Ten is right now that the 4-4-3-3-1-1 format, where you get guaranteed spots for each conference for a certain number of teams. So the Big Ten and SEC would have 4 each, the Big 12 and ACC would have 3 each, and then you'd have one for the non-power leagues and one for either Notre Dame or an at-large. That seems like that's what the Big Ten is pushing right now. The SEC seems like they're pushing back on that a little bit. The Big 12 feels like they're pushing back on that a little bit. I'm interested to hear what Tony Petitti has to say, out loud in front of a microphone on the record on that. And I'm also interested to see how many coaches are willing to talk about that and express an opinion, because I'm certain, Tony, that they have an opinion. It's just a matter of who's going to be willing to talk about it in front of a bunch of folks who they know are going to relay that opinion if they give it.
Well, and it seems like if you play 9 conference games, you want the 4-4, you want the guaranteed 4 spots. And if you don't, if you're the SEC and you play 8 games, you're like, why? Let's just go with what people think. Let's just go with popular opinion. And so, yeah, I would assume that the Big Ten, knowing where that popular opinion goes a lot of times, most of those coaches are going to want the opportunity to play their way in and go with play their way in with the automatic qualifiers. It's kind of like, are we contradicting ourselves a little bit here? But I think most coaches feel like I could probably get to the top 4, even though especially if Michigan is down again, because you assume Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon are going to be there. But like, if Indiana can do it, pretty much anybody can do it. And that's the way that they would look at it. And we've seen in the past, if Michigan State can do it in 4-team playoff back in 2015, anybody should be able to do it. Iowa was 1 game away back then. And I know we're talking 10 years ago, but you only have to win the games that are presented in front of you. And for some of the Big Ten programs, sometimes you get a pretty decent schedule and it allows you to win 10 games. So I think the Big Ten as a whole, I don't know if it's going to be unanimous, but I think they're all going to be in favor of the automatic qualifiers. I'd be interested, like, if there aren't people who are in favor of it, why? Like, how does it benefit you not to have automatic qualifiers? Things like that. So, yeah, and is there Tony Petitti wants us talking this way, so we're going to talk this way. Or is it Tony Petitti talks this way because we're talking? Like, he is echoing what his coaches have been saying or what they've been telling him.
Yeah, and the thing that I think maybe has made me a little more open to the automatic bids for specific conferences is the fact that they're talking about also having that play-in round where 3 might play 6 and 4 might play 5, and then you don't even need to be top 4 in the league to qualify. You need to be top 6 in the league to have a chance to play your way in. I mean, think about some of the teams that would have been top 6 in the Big Ten over the last 5 years. Iowa made a Big Ten championship game out of the West. They certainly would have been top 6. Purdue made a Big Ten championship game. As you said, Indiana last year got in just as as an at-large team, but they would have obviously gotten into that play-in setup. Now you're opening things up to all you got to do is get hot. All you got to do is have a 9-3, 10-2 type season, and you're probably, if you're not losing 3 games in conference, you're probably in that top 6. Add Illinois to the list as a potential team this year. This just opens things up to so many more teams having a chance to play meaningful games in November, which is probably great for the health of the sport overall.
Yeah, and I think going back based on last year's records, like Ohio State and Iowa would have played, and Indiana and Illinois would have played. And I hear people saying, yeah, but do you really want to play off with Iowa in it? It's like, well, they're probably not going to win. But if they beat the number 3 team, then clearly they're not the number 6 team. They're the number 3, they're one of the 3 best because they just beat one of what we thought was the 3 best. And I'm with you. Like the Big Ten championship game, the conference championship games now are essentially meaningless. The major, I'd say the SEC and the Big Ten championship games are meaningless because both teams, all 4 of those teams made it in last year despite what they did in that game. So I'm of the opinion, just scrap the conference championship games and the top 2 teams they're in, and then you have the other play-ins, because are you rewarding? Like, you actually get to reward 2 teams with what they wouldn't have to play that weekend, basically. And so nobody's getting buys in a 16-team playoff. So give them that bye in the conference championship week. Now, is that just going to make them rusty? I don't know. Coaches seem to love buys, though, so I don't know that they'd argue, but I just think it'd be fascinating and fun and make games more important throughout the course of the season. And I know there are people who are absolutely 100% against this.
Yeah, and there are, and I certainly understand that, because there is multiple specific auto buy or auto bids for specific, certain conferences when others aren't getting the same number is a little antithetical to what the spirit of competitiveness might have traditionally told us is the way. But you do also have teams then playing their way in and winning their way in, and you can't say, well, Indiana just kind of, they didn't play anyone and they just, lost to the only good team they played. Well, you got to play another halfway decent team and you got to win your way in, and you can also lose your way out. So that's one. Speaking of things that have gotten people a little stirred up, Tony, I am interested to talk to various coaches about Big Noon Saturday, because I know Ohio State fans have thoughts on Big Noon Saturday, and I'm sure, if the Fox folks will be around and maybe we'll get a chance to talk to them about Big Noon Saturday. I think this is probably really an Ohio State specific problem to a certain degree, where the fact that Ohio State played on, 6 straight noon games to end the season, and I think 8 noon games altogether in the regular season last year, that means it's not anyone else's problem broadly. But I do wonder if coaches will talk about, do you view a noon game as a problem? Do you view, what does a noon game do for you in terms of recruiting? What does a noon game do for you in terms of in-stadium atmosphere? And is it an issue to you that your biggest games in a lot of cases are in that noon slot? And, I have been on our board and explained many times why Fox is doing it. And I understand why Fox is doing it, but I also understand why people are a little bit upset about that. And I'm interested to hear, this is another one where I'm guessing people are not going to talk too negatively about their valued corporate champions from the Fox network, but I am interested to see if anyone's going to be interested in going on the record about, good, bad, or indifferent there.
Yeah, and I think before we ask those questions, go back and research to see how many times each of those Big Ten teams has played on Big Noon, and if they've done it once or none, and is it a goal for them? Not necessarily a goal, but it's like, hey, we are the biggest game. That's what they can tout. So it's a first world problem, and they'd love to have it. But then, would you like to have it 5 weeks out of 6 weeks in a row, like Ohio State did? Ohio State, as you said, played 7 noon games last year, and 6 of those were Big Noon. And the last 6 games were noon, with 5 of those being Big Noon. And so, would you like to do that? And of course, they'd say, well, if that means that we are currently, ask Brett Bielema, would you want to play 6 noon games in a row? He's like, if that means we're number 1 in the Big Ten, give it to me. But eventually, after 2, 3, 4 years of so many of these games and all of your biggest games, like if Illinois, Missouri was the biggest game going, and every year it had to be at noon, eventually you're going to want something. You're going to share some thoughts on maybe we could back off a little bit. Like I think we've equated it to, like, I don't need ice cream for dinner every night. This is just a little bit much. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a good question. Like PJ Fleck, like, please let this happen to me. Like, that's probably what he's going to say.
Yeah, it does. Do you want Gus Johnson asking you if you want to smoke the entire pack? Like, no, thank you. Even if that means he's going to start calling Ryan Day the Marlboro Man. Oh, we're making him smoke the whole pack. I don't think they're going to probably be a fan of that eventually, but we'll see. Okay, so I have one more that's sort of adjacent, but do you have another one that you wanted to hit on?
I think when we get to, I think for one, I do want to go and ask all of the Big Ten coaches, do you guys still have your collective going? I don't know how, maybe I can Google that, but that is something to get on record and get the whys and the why nots. But I also want to ask some people like Brett Bielema, certainly, he's kind of talked about this already, but how NIL has evened the field for programs like Illinois with the SEC. And do you see a coincidence that, the NIL has been around for a few years and now the Big Ten has won 2 national championships in a row, that sort of thing? Like, do you see this continuing? And also, how have those national championships, do you use those in recruiting? Like, ask any of the Big Ten coaches, like, do you use the Big Ten status right now in recruiting? And it's kind of just all tied together with NIL and success and making the most of it.
Yeah, and that's related to my last one, because my last one is, this is a little bit of a lobbing a softball up there and just inviting them to smash it out of the park. But every league does this where they're going to have their talking points and they're going to tout how great their league is and they're the best and here's why. And oh boy, howdy, did you hear that during SEC Media Days last week? And I'm sure, they all had their talking points and, we only play 8, but boy, would you rather play, is playing a 9th game against Purdue really that different? Like, okay, everyone in the SEC is the single greatest team in the entire world. Tony, what is the SEC's playoff record, current SEC members, over the last 2 seasons, and which teams have they beaten?
Texas beat Arizona State, and did Georgia beat nobody?
Georgia beat nobody. Texas also beat Clemson. So Texas,
okay.
the entire SEC, including, this includes Texas before they joined the SEC, 2-5 in the college football playoff the last 2 years with wins over Clemson and Arizona State. Georgia lost to Notre Dame. And then the Big Ten is 4-0, current Big Ten members against the SEC in the college football playoff the last 2 years. Washington beat Texas, Michigan beat Alabama, Ohio State beat Tennessee, Ohio State beat Texas. So how often do you think you would hear the SEC is 4-0 against the Big Ten the last 2 seasons if that was the case? So I have a feeling this is one where you're kind of, we just saw the home run derby at Major League Baseball's All-Star game. This is one where we're going to throw one right down the pipe and just see how far someone can hit it. Because sometimes you get a real good quote there, and sometimes that quote ends up biting someone in the butt later, and sometimes that quote ends up being bulletin board material. But it's just, that's one, this is we're not there to do PR for anyone, but also sometimes there's lots of stuff coaches don't want to talk about. You're going to get some interesting answers on this one, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And anytime you can throw a softball up there, you might get the answer you're looking for. And it's not that you're trying to get an easy answer. You're trying to like, oh, okay, get like Brett Bielema. He's good for that. Kurt Signetti probably good for that. Anytime you can stir some things up, it's fun.
Yeah, I think I'm also interested in hearing like David Braun's thoughts on that. He's like, why are you asking me? What is that's the Northwestern coach for those who are going, why does that name sound familiar? Is there someone behind me? No? Okay. Yeah. So we'll that's just a smattering of the things we're going to have to talk about at Big Ten Media Days this week. There's going to be plenty more. There are certain people I love to talk to every year. James Franklin I know people have various thoughts on James Franklin. I always find that 45 minutes with him one of the most interesting periods of the week. I love talking to Bill Carollo, the Big Ten director of officiating. He's one of the first people who will talk on Tuesday. But we also get a chance to talk to a lot of the folks behind the scenes as well. Get a chance to have some kind of off the record or on background kind of conversations with TV network folks, and got a chance to talk to Rich Clark, the college football playoff director last year, to get some clarification on some stuff that just hadn't been reported. So it's a great chance to get some clarity on some stuff, which then helps us have more informed reporting for you at BuckeyeHuddle.com, because that's where we have our whole team covering the Buckeyes, covering the team, covering fall camp in just about a week and a half at this point, it seems like. And then we also have our team covering recruiting. We got our team covering X's and O's. You want it, it's there, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We hope to see you there. We hope to have plenty of coverage for you this week from out in Las Vegas. I don't know what our morning show is going to look like on Monday evening. We have a late flight, so we'll see how that all works out. But wanted to get our pre-Big Ten Media Days show in for you here, just to sort of set up what should be a very busy week of content at BuckeyeHuddle.com and YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.